Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over how to do the shadow underneath the apple, and I'm going to show you how to do the stem. If you're this far, that means you have all your layers, yellow, lime peel, apple green, dark green, and crimson red done. You have something that looks kind of like what I have right here, a nice blended, faded sort of Granny Smith Macintosh green apple that sort of popped up on your screen. It should have all those colors in it, and again, refer back to the videos I've already posted. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the shadow. So I think the easiest way to do this is we're going to go to the shape layer, our original shape layer. We're going to click on that. Again, it doesn't have to be visible for this part. You can have it invisible, that's fine too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select our magic wand. Our good old magic wand has caused us all kinds of problems, but if you're able to have cleaned up and erased the outside edge, which I think most of you should be able to do, everything should work now. I'm going to click on the outside of that shape, and you're going to see that whole area gets selected. Why am I doing that? That way I can make the shadow without even worrying about the apple itself. Now I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to go down to my layer window, and I'm going to create a new layer. That layer should pop up above shape, and I'm just going to call that one shadow. All right, and we're going to start with our shadow. I'm going to go to my color picker. I'm going to set it to black. I'm going to get my brush out. I don't want a teeny tiny brush, so let's see. We're going to move the hardness, of course, to 0 or under 10 at least. And let's just see what this looks like. Okay, that looks a little big. We'll go with, yeah, maybe, let's call it something in the 30s. Okay? Anywhere from 30 to 40 would be a good size brush for this. Again, the hardness should be down real low, almost 0. I'm going to lower my opacity significantly. And this was an issue for a student yesterday, and maybe for you. The opacity makes things see-through. The flow controls how fast the paint comes out of your paintbrush, like an airbrush would. I like to start with a very low flow, and I like to keep my flow less than my opacity. So this is a really helpful tool as far as making that blended, faded kind of look go out there. So I'm going to start with a pretty low one, under 20, opacity under 30. I'm going to keep this number bigger than that number, and then I'm going to start painting. And what you'll notice is that I can't paint over the apple because I've selected that area, but what I can do is I can paint on the background. So I want to make sure that I kind of go underneath it and around it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of fill in my first sort of like light gray layer. And I like to have it on a low flow and low opacity, kind of make it nice. And gentle fade, might be a little too much. I'll just undo it. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of catch that shadow just underneath the apple over here, and then bring it out a bit in a sort of a circular motion. All right, as you go over spots over and over again, it can make it a little bit darker. What I'm going to do is I'll start with that, and then I'll start making this area right in here a little bit darker. Okay. And what I can do is, if I have my first sort of layer of darkness, I'll go up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my opacity a little bit, and I'll increase my flow a little bit so it goes a little bit darker. And I'll go like right underneath here, and I'll just add a little bit more darkness and black into the lower areas closer to the apple. Closer to the body of the apple should be darker and darker. And again, by using the magic wand tool and selecting that outside area, you can see I can paint all of this without ever really affecting that main part. I'll go back over here. I'll actually increase my flow this time. I'll make it a little bit stronger to make the very darkest part in here. So right up against the apple should be almost jet black. 100% happy with the outside edge over here, so I'm going to go backwards a little bit and lower everything for a second, and then just do a little bit more. In fact, I'm just going to up and push just a little bit. And I'm just going to round off the shadow. All right, and that is going to be the shadow. Not too complicated. Just using some of the things that we've always done. You can always, once you're done with the shadow, hit Control D, to deselect, and then you'll have that little shadow out there already. The last piece of this thing is going to be this stem. So what I'm going to do is I want to kind of make that layer. You can always reorder your layers later, but what I'll tell you to do first to create that layer, I'll just click on the very top layer, which is crimson red at this point, and then I'll hit my new layer button right over here. And that way, whenever you hit new layer, it just creates the layer above whichever one you're selected on. Here I'm going to rename that one stem. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting. I'm going to sort of zoom in, zoom in to my old apple, my original apple. So I'm going to focus on this right over here. What I want to do is I want to change my paintbrush. I'm going to go to my paintbrush. This time for the stem, I'm going to go to 100% on my hardness. I'm going to take my size down to, I'm going to make my size 9 pixels. So that's about the thickness of this stem over here. So I'm going to adjust it to about 9 pixels. 10 is fine too. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go to my opacity. I'm going to move that up to 100%. I'm going to change my flow. I'm going to move that up to 100%. All right, we're going to do the stem a little bit differently. I'm going to go to my color picker, and I'm just going to, whatever you have set up on your thing, I would slide your bar down to like the yellows or the oranges. I don't care which color you use for the brown necessarily, as long as it's brown. But once you get into the orange color, down here is going to be browns. And what I'm going to tell you is choose a dark brown. Don't pick it all the way down here in black. Don't pick it up in the middle somewhere. On this bottom corner over here, you can see the difference. Just pick yourself a nice dark brown without it being jet black and hit OK. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take our paintbrush and we're going to kind of just paint right over the other stem. Okay? Stems, I mean, it's nature makes these things, so if your stem's not exactly the same or it curves a little bit differently, that's fine. You can see I've just kind of painted a little brown sort of shape to cover up the other one. What you're seeing is the pixels since I've zoomed in so much. All right, now what I'm going to do to sort of finish off this stem, I'm going to switch to my old friend, the magic wand. I know a lot of you hate the magic wand, but some people hate magic, so whatever. We're going to take the magic wand. We're going to click right on the stem, not outside of the stem, not on the edge, right in the middle of the stem. And what you should see right now is that that stem is going to be selected. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to slightly lighten some of these parts. So we'll go to our color picker. And what I'm going to do is wherever I was here, I'm going to go up a little bit. Enough that you could see a little bit of a difference. I still want it to be in the lower half of darkness, but I do want a lighter color than what you last used. I'm just going to go, you can see that was the old color, this is the new one. I'll hit OK. I'm going to have my brush now, and when I have my brush, you're going to find that it will only paint in the area that's selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of make one side a little lighter and this sort of top part a little bit lighter. All right, so now I'm creating a little shadow, a little dip. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my little color picker. I'm going to go with a slightly lighter brown. I hit OK, and this time I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to go with like a 4 or a 5 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in and put a little bit of light on this edge. Put a little bit of light right in there. All right, and now the last little thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to grab white, or actually I won't go white. I'll go like a really, really light sort of orange yellow. And this will be my last little bit, and I'm going to use that for the very top of my stem, which is catching a little bit of light. All right, now ta-da, we have a stem. I'm going to zoom out. All right, but I made my stem on top of the old picture. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to deselect. You can see it's still highlighted. We're going to deselect this by hitting Control and the letter D. All right, and now I'm going to go back up. See my stem layer. I'm going to go back up to my Move tool, and I'm going to click right on it, and I'm going to grab that little stem that I made, and I'm going to move it right over here. And I'll just place it wherever I feel like it fits. All right, if you feel like you went a little bit out of the edges and stuff like that, you can always come back here with like the eraser tool. You know how to use the eraser tool. I would use it nice and hard and sort of like clean up the edge of that. Erase it down, and you can kind of come in and sort of place your little stem. And here we go, voila. We have our apple, we have a stem, we have a shadow, we have it finished. Ladies and gentlemen, you did it. You did it. We made it. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys this video. I'm going to stop it right now. We're going to have the rest of this week to finish this portion of it. And on Monday, for those of you who have the colored pencils and the paper that I handed out, I will demo how to do this on paper for you. For those of you who don't have that stuff and are working fully remote at home and don't have the supplies, I will also set up a new piece of fruit digital painting. So our assignment next week going into the holiday break will be either to do this apple again on paper with color pencil, or to do a new piece of fruit digitally. And you'll have the option, you could do either one and submit whichever one you want.